FMC family, and welcome to this next episode of Believing Together podcast. My name is John Wayne McMahon. I'm here again with Reverend Susan Kent, and our good friend Brent Parker is joining us today. And so I'm a little nervous to introduce you to Brent, but also very excited because he is a good friend. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Brent is the pastor at the church at Wood Forest, which is a campus of the Woodlands Methodist Church. And Brent has been a dear friend and inspiration, even a coach at different times about the journey we're on now. And so really excited as we talk about multiplication for us to hear about someone who's a little bit further down the road than where we are, but we'll get into that. So I want you to, will you introduce yourself a little bit? Who are you, your family, how long you've been at the church there, whatever the Lord puts on your heart to share.
Yeah, well, I thought we'd start by sharing our most embarrassing moments.
Well, you could probably say that about both of us.
If you want to go first. You go.
No.
As you say, in addition to sort of caring for and leading the family of faith down at our Wood Forest campus, probably the best parts of me, I hope my family would say, is that I just love the Lord. I just love Jesus so much and love that He's chosen me to be in a relationship. It was easy to choose Him back when I found out how great He was.
Yeah.
But then I've got this wonderful wife. You caught me in the middle of a really great season of life. I turned 50. I will turn 50 in first week of November.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And then
Join the club.
in March, my wife and I've got a great wife, Corey. We will have been married 25 years come March.
That's amazing.
And so those are some pretty sweet things happening right now.
Yeah.
Dad of three.
Yeah.
Next to Jesus and my wife is my kids.
Yeah.
Just love my boys. You've heard me talk about my boys.
Oh, yeah.
Both of you have forever.
Yeah.
Love them. Old 21, 18, and almost 10.
Yeah.
And they keep me young.
Yeah.
I saw how surprised look
Yeah,
you had.
I was. No,
50?
totally.
How are you 50?
For
You
sure.
don't look anything close to that.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Thank you. I know that's what you were
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
So I help lead this campus, the Wood Forest campus of our church, and then I'm also loving on my family, and whatever they say to do, I do, and wherever they say to go, I go, and
Yeah.
it's great.
That's why you've
That's
been
me.
married almost 25 years.
Exactly right. Happy wife, happy life.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
know.
the motto.
Yeah.
That's the motto.
I wear the pants of my family, but she picks them out. Kind of the way we
That's
do
right.
things. It works great.
Right, John Wayne?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. I've never heard that, but it applies.
Yeah.
I may be the head of my house, but she's the neck.
That's right.
I mean, I don't know. These are the things
How
I've
many
learned.
of you have these?
Well,
of these?
isn't this a marriage podcast we're talking about?
Yeah.
Believing
Sorry.
together. I could see how
Believing
you
together.
would get to that. Yeah. So let's see if we can guide this in some way.
So glad to hear
You'll know why Brent's here soon, but if you were here Sunday, that'll give you an idea because we talked about multiplication. We really talked about this next kind of season in front of us where we are called very intentionally to plant a church in the Woodlands Hills. And our strategy with Believing Together is about multiplication and about expansion and about bringing the gospel out. And so, Susan, why don't you unpack a little bit of where we are and why this is an important part of Believing Together?
Yeah. Well, honestly, it's because of what we're called to be. I mean, we're disciples, right? Disciples who make disciples and spread scriptural holiness
Yeah.
across the globe. But we can't do that if all we're going to do is just, build a little nest that's all comfortable
Right.
and just stay where we are. We have to go out. I mean, that's from the very beginning. That was Jesus's message. He sent his disciples out. He sent 72 out. He sent them out. He practiced, right?
Yeah.
Before he left,
Right.
and then said, this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
So honestly, this is just living out our life as a disciple, to go and multiply and to go and take that gospel message out to wherever he lets us, and he really did give us that spot
Yeah.
in the Woodlands Hills and
Yeah.
said, go,
Yeah.
FMC,
That's
and
right.
we're going.
Yeah, that's right. We've shared in so many ways, and Brent knows a lot of the backstory because sometimes it was coffee with Brent, like me freaking out. Is this going to happen, or how are we going to do this? And then God brings Susan, and y'all know each other already, and so.
So apparently we need to have coffee so I can freak out.
But God has been ordering our steps in ways that we, in the moment, couldn't really see it. And I think that speaks to the gospel imperative to go out. It is God's idea before it was our idea.
100%.
And if we don't say yes, God will find a way to go,
Right.
right?
Right.
Through others. And so, but it is still a hard journey. And so, Brent, I just curious about your story about how you became a church planter. Like, how did God bring you into this? How did He call you to be a church planter in this context and where you are in this season of life?
Yeah. Probably the shortest way to try to do it is I was not Methodist. I became a Methodist in this process.
Yeah.
But I was doing some church consulting with Ministry Architects and was helping a Methodist church in the south side of Houston. The guy that was partnered with me was a Methodist youth pastor at another church that was looking for some clergy. And he called me a few days later and said, "Hey, our church needs 2 pastors. Would you come?" I said, "Thank you, but no, I'm happy where I am.
Yeah.
And I'm a DOC guy, and you're
Yeah.
Methodist. It's not."
Yeah.
Then the senior pastor called,
Yeah.
and then a week or so later, Jeff Olive calls, he was in charge of church planting for the conference,
Right.
and he said, "Hey, if
You
things
know,
don't
this
work
church
out."
knows Jeff Olive.
Oh, that's true. That's
Yeah.
right.
That's
Yeah, the remodel.
Yeah.
That's right.
Nothing else. You remember
That's right. That's right.
the new entryway looks beautiful.
Yeah, there it is.
Beautiful. Thank y'all for being a part of that,
Yeah.
contributing to the last project.
Yeah, that's right.
So then he said, if it doesn't work out at that church, I'd love to talk to you about church planting. And when he asked me that, I thought, no, again, I don't want to become a Methodist. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing here. I'm in a good church. And but for some reason, the Lord reminded me that when I was in seminary years ago, I'd gone to Memphis, Tennessee for a church planting class. And I had actually drawn up all of sort of the first phases of a church plant as
Yeah.
part of that class project.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about that project and how much energy it gave me to dream dreams and to have visions that seems biblical, to think about what God might have in store beyond what I could imagine.
Yeah.
And so again to Jeff, I said, "Okay, next time I'm in town, I'll meet you. You tell me what you got going."
Yeah.
He listed a number of options. None of them sounded all that appealing to me.
Yeah.
But then he mentioned the Woodlands. He says, "The Woodlands Methodist wants to start a second campus." And I said, "That's the one." He goes, "Sorry, bro. No offense to you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they can kind of choose who they want, and they wouldn't choose you."
Yeah.
Again, no offense. But you're not Methodist. You've never preached every week. You've never planted a church before. There's so many reasons for them not to choose you.
Right.
So how about one of these other ones?
Yeah.
And we said goodbye, thank you, but no thanks.
Yeah.
And months later, finally, I'm at a training event, and my eyes start sweating profusely. I can't stop. We were singing the song Oceans, and they were in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I just had this sense I'm supposed to at least hear him out more.
Mm.
So I called him back. "Hey, man, I think the Lord's leading here." And he said, "Well, good, because I've talked to the Woodlands, and I think they might actually give you a shot."
Wow.
And that just initiated sort of a fast forward of some interviewing and some transferring and all
Yeah.
the things.
Yeah.
I even interviewed you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So kind of went through the process, and again, not knowing what I didn't know, but believing deeply that God was calling me
Yeah.
to this new thing. And then, as you alluded, the Lord is about sending.
Yeah.
It's always about sending.
Yeah.
And so Acts 1:8 is very familiar to most of us, that when the Spirit of God comes and falls on you,
Right.
He will give you power,
That's right.
right, to be a witness. Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the ends of the earth. And so I believe He's constantly sending His Spirit upon us and saying, "Now will you take it? You have
Right.
power.
Right.
Are you willing to take the power I've given you
Right.
and go where I'm sending you? Are you
Yeah.
willing?"
Right.
And silly as I was, I said yes. And now here we are, come January 10th, we'll be launching into our 10th year
Okay.
as a campus.
That's so
crazy.
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 Wow.
Yeah. I was just a
Amazing.
40-year-old when I got here. My midlife crisis was planting a church and having a third son with my wife. It was not the normal.
There's less fruitful things that you could do with a midlife
Probably.
crisis. So. All right, so let me jump off that and share maybe a more redemptive question. But
Yeah.
what have you seen God do through those 10 years? I mean, what has God done in you? What have you learned about God on this journey? Wherever you're led to answer that.
Yeah. I think the first thing that comes to mind is that when I came into it, anytime you step into something new, right, you start assessing yourself. Like,
Oh, yes.
God, why did you call me to this? Like, am I really ill-equipped as
Yeah.
I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Can I really do this or not? And I remember in those early days using a lot of self-deprecating humor.
Yes, you did.
And I had a couple people, I would say on a Sunday morning, for example, like, "Hey guys, I know y'all been very patient with me, but we got a real preacher coming next Sunday to fill in for me. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. Don't want to miss." And there were a couple people in particular, Mike Sims being one,
Yes.
and John Hull being the other.
Yes.
who each came to my office. Mike came with tears in his eyes.
Yes.
Parker, you were called to this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Quit
Yes.
Wow.
trying to say that God didn't bring you here. He brought you here just for what you could bring.
Yeah.
And then John Hull would just
Yeah.
he'd walk by and say, Parker, you were made for this. You were made for this.
Love both those
And
men.
all of that started to sort of clear up in my own mind that maybe as JD was just saying, he and I were talking earlier today, I realized I truly was bringing nothing to this.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was bringing everything
Yeah.
to this, and
Yeah.
the best stuff has happened when I acknowledge I bring nothing, Jesus, you bring everything. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
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 Like, could you do something
Yeah.
with this?
Yeah.
If I bring my nothing, you bring your all.
Yeah.
And what I've learned over time is that I'm actually better at things than I thought I would be at some things.
Yeah.
And I'm not near as good at some things as I thought I
Thought
was.
you were.
Yeah. And so it's led me into a real strong reliance on the Lord, just to like,
Yeah.
I hate to call our people bugs, but you know, like if you're out in the country, even in your home,
Yeah.
you go to Woodland Hills, this happens
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You don't see any bugs until the lights go out,
Yeah.
the sun goes down, you flip your porch light on, all of a sudden all these bugs come. Where are they from?
Yeah.
I really believe that the people in our community were hungering for light.
Mm.
They realized there was darkness that they were walking through, and they wanted some light. And I flipped the light on.
Mhm.
Said, "Here he is."
Yeah.
Wow.
I know it wasn't.
Yeah.
I know my
Wow.
limitations. This
Yeah.
is not self-deprecating. I
Yeah.
know where I stop
Yeah.
Right.
and what we've experienced in the last 9 years.
Well, you're really good
No,
at
no possibility.
empowering and encouraging people
Mm.
because I've seen
Thank you.
that, and that's one of the things that I loved. Watching you just really bring the people, like, this is not my church, like, this
Right.
is here, this is
Mhm.
our church together. You were always really, really good at that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that, and you're probably experiencing this now. So hold on to these days. The early days are the best days.
That's what Pam said.
Early days are the best days. They're hard.
Yeah.
Showing up early,
Yeah.
emptying trailers, setting up, taking down, it all feels like so much work, because it is. But it's holy work, and
Yes.
the people who commit, who jump in these early days,
Right.
they'll be the people that you'll look back now 9 years
Yeah.
and remember fondly the way that you've watched their faith grow, you've watched their children grow, they're all in, these
Right.
early adopters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want to jump off of in what you just said about the guys, Mike and John, speaking something out of you, I think it really, even outside of church planting, it speaks to some of what we talked about, especially activating our faith and how important the body of Christ is to recognize gifts.
Yeah.
Because I have a similar journey in that when I didn't realize I was hearing a call into ministry, but looking back, I could see it was starting to form. But the earliest signs of that were people naming something I couldn't see in myself. And so when we're talking about all of these things, we need the body of Christ. We need a community that will speak that truth and that life over us. And I think so much of our culture, we don't have meaningful enough relationships in order to be vulnerable enough, be known enough for someone to do that and for us to do it for them. So I just think that's a great story, one that I resonate with, and something that's going to be really important in a new faith community.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it can't all be you.
No.
Right.
No. Absolutely.
We already
not.
know that. I mean,
Right.
it can't
Right.
just be the vocational leadership. And so much of church planting, but also so much of Methodism was actually organic, spirit-led, lay-led,
Yeah.
Yeah.
calling the gifts out of in each other and empowering them to do that ministry.
Right.
So I love that. That's
Right.
good.
And even
Yeah.
though I'm not sure that I would call my people bugs, but I love that
I know.
illustration. You know,
He's 10
your
years in. What's going to
Yeah,
happen?
yeah.
They're in.
That's
So.
right.
I didn't call them roaches. When
Yeah,
we turn the
yeah.
lights on, they leave.
Well, that's what I
Good
thought
point,
of
good point.
because I found one in my garage last night. Same thing, light on, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
man, I got to deal with that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
Roaches
not gonna
leave,
crush
yeah,
them.
bugs
anyway,
come.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. But what I'm trying, you boys, I'm telling you what, bring you back.
Could have put you in the middle.
Come
so you could-
on,
Okay,
I
yes,
know, tell
yeah.
you.
Something holy,
But,
come on.
but the reason why I love that illustration is because we've said from the very beginning, we're not planning a second campus because we want to build this kingdom for ourselves or this legacy or yay us, but it's because we really feel like the people, the community, they need to hear that message. They need to know that they are created in the image of God, that they need to know that there's redemption and hope, you know? So anyway, I just love that. I love that image that all we got to do is just bring our nothing, right? So Christ can shine,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And then so people can come to Him.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know how many of your folks listen to the wake up call during the week.
Quite
A lot.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those who do
Yeah.
probably hear that prayer that we all pray together every single morning.
Yeah.
Jesus, I belong to you.
Yeah.
And this isn't just some pastors say this. Is something we all, if all of us would say this, I just sent it to
Right.
my boys again today. Like, guys,
Right.
memorize this thing.
Right.
Right.
I belong to you. My heart is yours. My
Yeah.
mind is yours. My eyes are fixed on you. And my body's laid down for you.
Yeah.
I belong to you. And it's what's interesting is the more I've been praying this over the months, you start hearing Jesus echo it back. Hey, you know what? I belong to you too.
That's
Wow.
good.
You know,
That's really good.
my heart is yours, and
Yeah.
my mind's on you,
Right.
and my eyes are fixed on you. And I've already laid my body down for you, and I'll do it again.
Yeah.
I would do it for you again if I had to, over and over.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so good.
All right, so we're in a stage of planting where we've launched in the elementary school.
The best days.
Yeah, the best days.
They are.
I think
Yeah.
we're trying to. There, there's a group of people that are a part of that, but we're trying. This is a 2 campuses, 1 church.
Yep.
This is a vision for all of us. And so y'all have experienced something like that. One of the reason why I've benefited from Brent is also because we're approaching this campus and 1 church in a similar way to what the Woodlands did with Wood Forest. And so what would you say to the people of FMC at this part of the vision? I mean, for those that maybe are excited that we're doing it, but are, kind of sitting on the edge, I don't really get it, to those that are setting up chairs every week, what's your word of vision? What would you give an encouragement to our congregation?
I mean, it goes without saying that those who are closest to a thing probably love that thing the most.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I love my children more than anyone other than my wife loves those children.
Yeah.
Grandparents, next layer, friends,
Yeah.
right? So this, in many ways, is like a child that y'all are birthing forth, right?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And so I think there's a couple things. One is just to acknowledge the truth that a new church plant, a new campus plant, they can't fully fund themselves from the beginning.
Right.
That's the whole point of being
Right.
2 campuses of 1 church. We are a family. We do this thing together.
Yeah.
And so, like, what happened on our campus was, went to our first capital campaign. The land was purchased before I was brought on the team.
Right.
Right? And then folks from the Woodlands campus came, and then folks from the neighborhood started to come. But even though we were beginning to be a substantive group of people,
Yeah.
we knew we needed a building. We had grown a lot faster than anyone, including myself, had expected. We needed space.
Right.
But we knew that space was going to, in round numbers, ours was going to be a $7 million thing. This was,
Yeah.
years ago now.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way, looking at a group of folks worshiping a few hundred people
Right.
at the time, that we could come up with that.
Right.
And so one of the important things that we had to talk about, I remember talking about this with our senior leadership and trying to define the relationship
Yeah.
and to acknowledge that our campus was not just sitting out there like latchkey kids waiting for a handout.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't like we were just sitting out there going, hey, give us some more,
Right.
give us
Right,
some
right,
more,
right.
we're not giving.
Right.
But I was able to validate that in our
Yeah.
first campaign.
Yeah.
The expert had said that based on his algorithm, we'd come up with about 1.5
Yeah.
in pledges. We ended up with 2.3.
Wow.
So it was like the perfect story. It was a way for our people to say, we're committed to this, even more than you would have ever imagined we are.
Yeah.
And we also acknowledge that to get to 7,
Yeah.
the rest of the family's going to have to fill in.
Yeah.
And so my encouragement would be, the sooner the family can see this as a family thing,
Yeah.
the better.
Yeah.
Right.
With us, and you may find it to be true, I'm not sure about your demographics, where your people live, but it was helpful as people started to realize that our folks lived kind of between our campuses, and that the sooner we got a campus up, the easier it'd be for church membership to kind of choose which campus to go to during the week.
Yep.
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 You know, we have folks who worship in the Woodlands on Sunday morning and come to the Bible studies on our campus during the week, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So when you see yourself as a family, we're all in this thing together.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
And then just with the honesty to say, we know they can't do this on their own, so why would we expect them?
Yeah.
It's like looking at your own children.
Right.
Why? I don't ask my 10-year-old to drive the car to pick up groceries.
Right.
Right? I do ask him to do his part, to do his
Right.
things, get your clothes from this room to that room, and blah,
Right.
blah, blah. But
Right.
so acknowledge as this campus grows, as it
Yeah.
gets older, as it grows in size and
Yeah.
scope, that they will be able to take on more of their own responsibilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, 9 years in now, our budget, we're 100% responsible for our own budget.
Right.
We even have a line in there where we pay money back for some of the shared services that we don't directly pay for, and we
Right.
still end up with money in the bank.
Right.
So there's a way
That's
to
awesome.
share.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
We're all
awesome.
one family is
Yep.
probably the...
Yep.
You've
Yeah.
always been really
That's the
good at articulating that vision and articulating the relationship
Mm-hmm.
even before the original campus understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were always really
but I
good
was
at
just
that.
using Jesus' line, right? Or you could use Paul's line about the body of Christ if you
Right.
wanted to. Like, hey, we're the big campus. You know,
Yeah.
y'all got to find your way to get as big as us. That could be a
Yeah.
posture that they could have taken.
Yeah.
But I thought that all the parts mattered. We would bring something. We brought new energy, new life to the church as a whole.
Yeah.
You know, you go back to some of our meetings, some of the things that Dr. Rob was looking for things to celebrate. He always had something to celebrate.
Yes.
Look at what we're
Yes.
doing over there and out there. And
Yes.
so then the church got energized by it. And
Yeah.
that energy helped push them in other areas to see things in the loft really grow. And,
Yeah.
but Jesus does this. He says this, right?
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the guy who didn't answer his prayer. Father, I pray that they would be
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you and I are one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy that like breaks Jesus' prayer,
Yeah.
like intentionally works against his
Yes.
desire for oneness.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If the body is one, we are the body of Christ. It's the same reason we pray for you guys on a Sunday morning.
Right.
Our church and your church are not competitors. Your church
Right.
and
That's
ours,
right.
or
Right.
even though we're in the same denomination,
Right.
we pray for Restoration Church
Yeah. That's
down
right.
the way,
That's
right?
Yep.
Because they're a part of the body. Look, there's too many people that are missing out on the love of Christ
Yeah.
Yes.
for us to argue over the ones who've already been found.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he came to seek and save the lost. This we came for, and Woodland Hills, man. Even
Yeah.
before y'all got going out there, I was already in the ears of folks at our Woodlands campus saying, guys,
Yeah.
Woodland Hills, there's going to be people moving in who are not going to drive all the way to these other churches.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got to get a church to their neighborhood
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
because convenience matters. People
Yes.
choose churches that are close by.
Yeah.
Neighborhood churches, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm excited about what's going to happen out there.
You know, I was
we're-
already excited. Now, just talking with
jazzed
you,
up.
I'm
telling
like
you.
ready to go.
These are future sons and daughters, brothers and sisters
yes,
Right.
for the body of Christ, the kingdom of God,
Yeah.
that we don't even know yet, right? And they're moving in.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be able to show up and be there ready to
Right.
welcome them, not only to their new neighborhood, but to their faith community.
Yes.
I just thought of another question. So, looking back to the early days in the school, by the way, they were worshiping in a school right across from where their campus is
campus
now,
is. Yep.
and that's very similar
Same
to where
scenario. Very
where
similar.
we're going to be. Looking back to those early days, brag on yourself a little bit. What was some of the things you're so glad Wood Forest did early on, or some
Yeah.
key characteristics of Wood Forest early on?
Yeah. Probably a couple things. When before I got here, I sensed that the Lord was calling me to plant a front porch church. That was just the language that I was using
Yeah.
all the time. And I was thinking back to like the 1960s, 70s, where people lived in their front yards instead of hiding in their backyards.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you knew your neighbors. You knew their children. If a kid fell off a bike, you didn't look around to see if somebody was going to come help. You just went and did it
Yeah.
because you knew.
Yeah.
You saw a need, you
Yes.
met a need.
Yeah.
And I thought, wouldn't it be great if a church lived in their front yard?
Yeah.
Like lived out front. So it was important to us when we first arrived in Wood Forest neighborhood was just beginning to grow as well.
Right.
About 3,000 population. Now it's 13,000 9 years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Similar situation.
Yep.
Community that's growing. Get in on the ground level and grow with them.
Yeah.
So we were at every community event we could get to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had our faces there, swag. Everybody called me the swag pastor
Yeah.
because our little
Tell you.
logo was on everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Everything.
at our church.
Pretty sure I have T-shirts.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
And our people love them.
Yes,
You know, in fact,
yes.
even this coming January, our
Yep.
finish our 9th year, we give out a free T-shirt to everybody in the building on our anniversary every
Yeah.
year
Yep.
because they love our shirts. They wear
Yeah.
them
Yep.
everywhere.
It's true.
Social media posts, everything's. So we made the decision early on to link arms with the community.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to be at every community event. We're not asking you to come to us.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything but the school.
Right.
So we were in the community. We were at the parks. We were at if the community event had something going, we were in it.
Yeah.
There participating. Crawfish boils, we were there eating it with the rest.
This
So that's one
Saturday,
thing.
we have Harvest in the Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Yep,
got
we're
one this
there.
weekend.
Community
Yeah.
events.
Yeah.
I made friends with the community directors. Asked
Yeah.
them what their calendar was. Was there anything you wanted me to sponsor?
Yep.
Right.
Any way that I could participate? Can I send volunteers to help you set up or take down?
Right.
We
Yeah.
decided we're not here for the church. We're here to bring the church to you. And
Yeah.
That's right.
So that was one of the things. And then, secondly, one of the things that I think has gone really well, and it continues to this day, is we created a thing called the Stewart Support Team. The elementary school's named Stewart. And we just believed that we were meeting in a cafeteria where hundreds of children were eating,
Yeah.
passing through.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a Sunday that we didn't pray for those students, that we didn't pray for their faculty. The principal would come to worship.
Yeah.
And we just made sure that every kid in need got what they we met the need. We
Yeah.
took responsibility for that school and their
Yeah.
students. We gave gifts to the teachers. Even to this day, today's like a Wednesday, I think, or Tuesday. Yesterday on a Monday, we still to this day on payday. We push a cart around and we give free breakfast to every teacher at their door. Every payday.
Love
Yeah.
It's payday breakfast. Was just texting with the principal last night about our next coffee situation to get together and
That's awesome.
how can we support your students. I think if you're planted in a school and you don't look at the school as your Jerusalem,
Right. Right.
you're missing the boat.
Right.
Right.
No,
The school is your
absolutely.
Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All sorts of families, the stats are true. 1 in 4 knows Jesus, the other 3 don't.
Yeah.
And they are in your stocked pond right
Yeah,
there.
Right.
We have Cats for Christ there every Friday.
Okay.
So our Kid Life and Family Ministry Director is there and
Yeah.
leads it.
Yeah, there's like
Mhm.
Yeah, we love
75
it.
kids or something
Yeah.
coming to that.
Oh yeah, there were 80 when I was there.
Yeah. So
There is
you
a
can
lot,
you can
yeah.
put your church name on the fun run shirts and all those things.
Yeah.
Sponsor, but if you can get some adults in there like what you're doing on the Fridays.
Yeah.
If you can be the people doing, you got people in your church that are substitute teachers. Get on the
Right.
list to sub there.
Right.
Right.
If you got folks who
Yeah.
love to read to children, get them working with that library.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, those relationships.
I just
are
I just
huge.
convinced my wife to be a teacher at that school.
That's
So-
right. That's right.
Not really.
Yay,
She got called
Lauren.
into it, but
So you
she
have a
is there.
missionary.
So yeah, she's
Boots
there.
on the
She's
ground
in.
missionary.
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty
Well,
awesome.
Yeah, and I have to say, so Pam,
Uh-huh.
your right hand
Yeah.
person, she got together with my right hand person
Michelle.
and just helped us when we were just starting. And I was jumping into this going, what am I doing?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
we're going to figure this out as we're doing it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And your staff, so kind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me tell you, everything, don't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Churches are apples and oranges, of course. There's a lot of unique sort of
Right.
things about what y'all are doing, but there are some tried and true
Yeah.
practices worth considering.
Well, and I joked about it Sunday. Like, I studied with church planners when I was doing my master's, and one of the things I joke about is don't trust any like church planning book because no one knows what they're doing,
Right.
and the mission field's so different. And so they're probably trying to fund the mission if they wrote a book
Right,
and
right,
got it
right.
out published.
Yeah.
But there are some things, and that because that is like gets to the root of a theology of hospitality.
Yep.
Yep.
And what it is to be compassionate and to witness to those that are around us. So those do translate to whatever mission field. It just looks different how it plays out. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but there are some real similarities in our situation. And
think
so I
so.
love that word about the school. All right, so big question to kind of wrap up today. I thought let's talk about church planting in general because I often hear, to myself personally, when I was sent to be a planter, I was running into people, I would tell them what I'm doing. I hear it in our own church, and I hear, why would we church plant? Like, why is church planting important? And I think if sometimes I laugh about it, but it's actually not a bad question because there's churches everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's plenty that our churches that exist can do. And so why do you think in our day church planting is so important? And I think that's a big question for all of us. And there's a lot of ways we could answer it. So let's just see where the conversation goes.
Yeah.
Why is planting an important thing in 2024 in a saturated city of Houston where there's churches all over the place?
Yeah. I think, and you may have some thoughts on this too in what you're experiencing. I think for me, what our campus planting did was it both reinvigorated longtime church members from the Woodlands campus.
Yeah.
One of the things I would hear all the time is we are so excited that our church is moving to our neighborhood.
That's
Right.
good.
Yeah.
How I found kind of our first core group was sorting our database with the
Right.
zip code
That's right.
of our area.
Yep.
And calling those people and saying, hey, your church is coming to your neighborhood, just
Yeah.
got them so enthusiastic.
Right.
People are so busy right now. The proximity
Yeah.
is one of the big deals,
Yeah.
right? People are not traveling as far as they used to go to church.
Right.
Denominational loyalty is down, church loyalty is down. They hop
Right.
to whatever's convenient.
Yeah, that's right.
Are you meeting at a time that's convenient for me? Are you meeting in a place that's convenient for me?
That's right.
So creating a source of convenience in Woodland Hills is going to be one thing.
Yeah.
Churched people will be reinvigorated,
Right.
Yes.
right?
That's good.
But we also we moved into a neighborhood where people were moving They were
Yeah.
leaving
Yeah.
Same.
their old church
Yeah.
because it's now geographically an hour away. Or
Right.
it's now,
Right.
so they were looking for a church.
Right.
There are still people looking for churches. There
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah, that's right.
The stats may try to tell us otherwise, but people still are looking for church.
Yeah.
And so to be able to provide one in a place where they're moving
Yeah, that's right.
makes a lot of sense
That's
to
right.
me. And we found a lot of folks who, oh, there's a new church.
Yeah.
Even if they had been in a church when they were kids, they're like, oh, wait, there's a church right here?
Yeah.
Right? One of the first guys I met in our neighborhood, actually, I make fun of him all the time for this. I'm going to say his name, Octavius is his name, Octavius Gerlach. He's got a great workout studio in the Woodlands.
a great name,
Big
too.
African American
Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
arms bigger than both of our legs combined.
Yeah.
I was at the mailbox when we first moved in. We have common mailboxes like y'all
Yeah.
do too. And we're there. I'm getting to know the guy. I said, hey, man, what do you do? And he tells me about what he does. I said, man, that's a lot. You work hard. Weight training during the weekends and the daytime, and you're an HR guy, and blah, blah, blah. He goes, yeah, but we don't work on Sundays. I said, oh, okay. Well, what do you do on Sundays? He says, we go to church. Okay, well, where do you go to church? He said, well, we're kind of in between right now. You know, about once a month we try
Served
this
up
one
on
out.
a platter.
It's like every now and then we go to church, but you know, there's just not any churches out here
Yeah.
in this neighborhood. We've got to drive a ways to get to one, so you know, we just don't go very often.
Yeah.
He says,
I
but
have a deal for
Yeah.
you.
well, no, this is what's funnier. He says, I say, well, so you haven't found a good church yet? He says, no, but I hear that there's going to be a Methodist church coming. It's going to meet in the school. I said, what school? He goes, the one around the corner. It's like right around the corner from here. It's like, wait a second. There's going to be a Methodist church moving right around our corner?
Clearly
He
you were not wearing a
yes,
shirt.
I was not. We had no swag yet. No swag yet. He said, yeah. He said, my wife and I are waiting for it to open so we can start going to church again. It'll be right in our neighborhood. And I said, man, I want to let you go with this for a while,
Yeah.
but I'm going to be the pastor of that church. And I'm so excited to know you'll be there when we get started. And you know what he has?
Yeah.
He's
That's
from
amazing.
day one, he took on one of the surf teams.
Oh, that's awesome.
He'd show up early, sweats a lot, but he's chairs and pipe
Yeah.
and drape and everything's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He and his wife are still very much involved in the life of the church. They were there Sunday.
Yeah.
So
That's brilliant.
that's part of why
I
I,
love
think it's
it.
important is
Yeah.
we sit around going, well, why can't the people just come to us? And that's why we're
Right.
all dying.
Right.
That's why we're
That's
all
exactly
dying.
right.
Why can't they just come to us?
That's
Yeah.
exactly.
Because they don't really love the church anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Well, how
try
can we get
another
them to love
program.
Jesus?
Let's try another
Right,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah, let's do a new thing. Let's go to them.
Yeah.
What a novel idea.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
You know?
It's written somewhere.
Yeah.
I saw it somewhere in the book.
Yeah.
Somewhere in a book.
We say we live in community for community.
Yeah.
Like we exist. Literally, we exist for the community and not for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would answer that question, and it's really just piggybacking on what y'all have already said. But and I want to close with what I appreciate about you, Brent, and your ministry is you're so incarnational. Like
Yeah.
you don't go anywhere without seeing opportunities for connection and relationships, and you really are. I've seen that model. Not when you're trying to show it. It's just who you are, and because of that, that's what Wood Forest has become. And I really think church planting and sending and just the apostle kind of movement is about going to where people are and
That's right.
being there and being where they are. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't think you should church plant just anywhere.
Yeah.
There probably should be some people there, and
Luckily.
and that's why they're going to city centers and,
Right.
and Acts, and they're going to these places where there's these crossroads of people coming and going, and
Yeah.
and I think that it's an incarnational model. It's what Jesus did. It's what he sent the disciples to do. It's the whole trajectory of the New Testament, and even in 2024. We should be doing that. And if
Right.
it reinvigorates us
Right.
at the same time
Yeah.
and transforms how we think about ministry in Conroe even, then
Absolutely.
I think it's right. I think it's what we should do.
The energy does go back
Yeah.
and forth. It goes out, but then it comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right.
It absolutely does.
If I could tie it up, I
Yeah.
think this is what would be something worth thinking about.
Yeah.
If I'm
Please.
a member at First Methodist Church in Conroe, and I'm trying to convince myself that this church plant thing out there, like I think Susan's great, I like her, so I'm not against this thing, but I'm not really for it
Yeah.
either. I don't know how to get on board with this. Here's my deep-seated belief is that Jesus came to seek and save the lost. He said that for himself.
Yeah.
I believe the church was his plan A, and he doesn't have a plan B.
That's
Right.
Right? We are his plan.
Right.
And if we can get our mind kind of flipped from we're not trying to grow a church here.
Yeah.
We're trying to grow the kingdom here.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
we're
that's
not
right.
trying to make the name of First Methodist Conroe greater. We're not trying to compete with the other churches who are
Right.
planting campuses.
Right.
We just know that there's people in Woodland Hills who need to know the love of God
Yeah.
as we experience it through the person of Jesus. And it's on us to do it.
That's right.
No one else is doing it. It's
That's
on
right.
us. We got to go do it.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
You know?
exactly right.
Yeah.
What a good word.
I think that's a good way to end.
Yes.
So yeah, and what I would say is we need everyone to do that. I mean, and I believe that God has already positioned what is needed within the body that is positioned here to achieve what He's called us to. I think that's usually how it works.
Yeah.
And so, but we need everyone, and that's why these conversations are important, and because different parts of the body give and lead and serve in different ways. And so, my prayer is that this conversation would translate into just a general curiosity of where am I being called, and how can I be a part of what God's doing. One date that we wanted to really tell everyone about is November 9th.
Yes.
And that is
At what time?
That is at
5:30.
5:30.
Yes, I knew you knew it. I knew you knew it.
Every week, I'm like, the
What?
dates that are very important, Susan, tell us. So November 9th at 5:30, we are having a night of worship at Founders Park in the Woodlands Hills. Just an incredible center to that neighborhood and development. And so wouldn't it be amazing for us in the Willis community, the Conroe community, for us to all go out there and to have a time of prayer and worship together?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
So-
take what God has
Yeah.
given us and let's take it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great night to just blanket the community with prayer and with
Right.
worship.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
The Sunday after election night of all times.
I mean, it's kind of a time to pray.
let's step into fractured places
Let's
and
do
be
it.
the peace
Right in
that
the
everyone's
middle of
longing
it.
for.
You know, we set that date, and then like a couple of months, maybe 30 days later, I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some. Let's leave it. Let's.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Well
So
timed.
very excited about what God's doing. We are over halfway through our Believing Together preaching series and spiritual journey, but it's just beginning for where God's calling us to. And so this conversation is going to continue. But thank you for taking time and joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.